Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel. I'm Nikki from Jinick Fashions, and in this video we'll be going over how to make this two-tone dress. So sit back and enjoy the tutorial.
I started my process with the top of the dress. To begin, I folded one of the fabrics in two and made sure to smooth it out. I used the regular tank top as a pattern, folding it in half and putting it on top of the fabric. I almost forgot to check that my fabric was stretchy in the right direction. Fortunately, it was, so I kept going. Once the tank top was positioned on the fabric, I used pins to mark where I plan to create the seams, and I used a heat erasable pen to mark where I plan to cut around the neckline and the armhole. Notice that I left a significant amount of seam allowance at the outside and in the center, as my fabric is slightly less stretchy than my tank top, and I needed seam allowance to allow for both a zipper installation at the front and to join the alternate fabrics in the back. I overdid it with the seam allowance, but I did that intentionally as I knew it would not be a problem to size things down later once everything was assembled. I created an identical shape using my black fabric. Then I got ready to use my invisible zipper. To install the zipper, I opened it, then positioned it over the top of the dress. I then flipped one side of the zipper over so that the right side of the zipper faced the right side of the fabric and the teeth of the zipper faced inwards. I pinned that side of the zipper in place, then started to work on the other side. I always test the positioning of my zippers to make sure I put everything in place correctly. Now for a trick I've learned. I never take my zipper to the sewing machine until after I hand stitch the zipper in place, especially when working with stretchy fabrics. With the machine tugging on the fabric and the zipper in different ways, skipping this step is a recipe for terrible puckering. Once I finished hand stitching my fabric to my zipper, I checked again to make sure there was no puckering and that the two pieces of fabric and the zipper were put together neatly. After being confident that everything was put together well, I took my piece to the machine and officially sewed the zipper on. Notice I'm using a special zipper foot. I learned the hard way that attempting to sew a zipper on with a standard sewing machine footer is another terrible recipe for disaster, as it deforms your zipper and makes it difficult or even impossible to open and close. Once the real sewing machine stitching was complete, I removed the hand-sewn base stitch since it was solely there as a placeholder. To work on the bottom half of the dress, I folded my fabric in four, making sure that it stretched in the same direction as the top. Note that the fold line is on this side of the fabric. I used a skirt that I recently made for myself as a pattern. I folded the skirt in half, putting the fold line of the skirt over the fold line of the fabric. Then I used pins to mark where I planned to create my seams. Once the pins were in place, I cut out the shape in the fabric. At this point, the left and right side of the skirt were pinned together, so I undid each pin, repinned the two top layers, then pinned the two bottom layers right below. I did this down the length of the skirt to separate the left side from the right side. Once that was complete, I brought the bottom of the dress to the sewing machine and sewed the seams using a zigzag stitch. When I tried on the top of the dress, I used a pin to mark where I wanted the top and the bottom of the dress to connect, both in the front and in the back. With both pieces right side out, I lined them up together to make sure the waistline at the top and the bottom of the dress are the same size. To connect the two parts of the dress, I turned the skirt inside out. I kept the shirt right side out, turned it upside down and stuck it into the skirt so that the right sides of the fabric were touching. I started pinning at the seams, placing the right side of the top to the right side of the bottom, positioning both pieces where I wanted them to connect. Then I took it to the sewing machine and sewed the pieces together with a zigzag stitch. I tried on the dress once more, then put a pin to mark the length that I wanted. I cut off the excess fabric, then folded the bottom of the dress up twice and pinned to hem. Then I moved on to hemming my neckline, which was a bit trickier because of the zipper. You'll be seeing me fold the fabric over the zipper. To do that neatly, I snipped the zipper tape partially. It's key that I don't entirely remove it, as it would ruin the integrity of the zipper. I folded the zipper tape, then folded the fabric over it to hold it down. After pinning it in position, I did a double fold to position the rest of the hem, doing the same for the zipper on the other side. To avoid destroying my zipper, I took my needle and thread back out and hand sewed the zipper areas. I made sure to color match using gray thread on the gray half and black thread on the black half. Then once out of the zipper area, I stitched the rest on my machine. I used the pattern that I previously created to make my puff sleeves. To learn how to make puff sleeves, click on the puff sleeve tutorial linked above or in the description below. Once the sleeves and other finishing touches were done, here's what my dress looked like.